Hey guys, back with another audiobook video. Today we're going to be reading 5 pages of the Into the Pit book. So without further ado, let's get started. Also, make sure you see part 1 before continuing. When Oswald and his 5th grade classmates were preschoolers, there was a cartoon on one of the little kid channels about a big pink ocelot named Oswald. As a result, Dylan and his friends had started calling him Oswald the Ocelot on the first day of kindergarten, and had never stopped. Dylan was the kind of kid who picked on anything that made you different. If it hadn't been Oswald's name, it would have been his Freckles or his Cowlick. Yeah. The name calling had gotten much worse this year in U.S. history when they learned that the man who shot John F. Kennedy was named Lee Harvey Oswald. Oswald would rather be Oswald than an assassin. Since it was the last day of school, there was no attempt at doing any kind of real work. Miss Meacham had announced the day before that students were allowed to bring their electronics as long as they took responsibility for anything getting lost or broken. This announcement meant that no effort would be made toward an educational activities of any kind. Oswald didn't have any modern electronics. True, there was one laptop at home, but the whole family shared it, and he wasn't allowed to bring it to school. He had a phone, but it was the saddest, most out-of-date model imaginable, and he didn't want to take it out of his pocket because he knew any kid who saw it would make fun of how pathetic it was. So while other kids played games on their tablets or handheld consoles, Oswald sat. After just sitting became intolerable, he took out a notebook and a pencil and started to draw. He wasn't the best artist in the world, but he could draw well enough that his images were identifiable. And there was a certain cartoony quality about his drawings that he liked. The best thing about drawing, though, was that he could get lost in it, and it was like he fell into the paper and become part of the scene he was creating. It was a welcome escape. He didn't know why, but lately he had been drawing mechanical animals, bears, bunnies, and birds. He imagined them being human-sized and moving with the jerkiness of robots in an old science fiction movie. They were furry on the outside, but the fur covered the hard metal skeleton filled with gears and circuits. Sometimes he drew the animals' exposed metal skeletons or sketched them with the fur peeled back to show off the mechanical working underneath. It was a creepy effect, like seeing a person's skull peeking out from beneath the skin. Oswald was so immersed in his drawing that he was startled when Miss Meacham turned off the lights to show a movie. Movies movies always seemed like a teacher's final act of desperation on the day before break. A way to keep the kids quiet and relevantly still for an hour and a half before setting them loose for the summer. The movie Miss Meacham chose was in Oswald's option too babyish for a room full of fifth graders. It was about a farm with talking animals, and he had watched it before, but he had watched it again because really, what else did he have to do? At recess, kids stood around tossing a ball back and forth and talking about what they were going to do over the summer. I'm going to football camp. I'm going to baseball camp. I'm going to hang out with out at my neighborhood pool. I'm going to stay with my grandparents in Florida. Oswald sat on the bench and listened. For him, there would be no camps there and no pool memberships and no trips because there was no money. And so he draw pictures, play his old video games that he'd already beaten 1,000 times, and maybe go to the library. If Ben were still here, it would be different. Even if they were just doing the same old stuff, they'd be doing it together, and Ben could always make Oswald laugh. Riffling on video game would always make Oswald laugh. Riffling on video game characters or doing a perfect impression of one of their teachers. He and Ben had fun no matter what they did. But now, a summer without Ben yawned before him, wide and empty. Most days Oswald's mom worked from 12 p.m. until 12 a.m. So his dad had to make dinner. Usually they got by on frozen meals like lasagna or chicken pot pie, or on cold cuts and potato salad from the snack space deli that were still good enough to eat but not good enough to sell. When Dad did cook, it was usually things that just require boiling water. While Dad got dinner ready, Oswald's job was to feed Jinx, their very spoiled black cat. Oswald often thought that he used about the same amount of cooking skill in opening Jinx's can of stinky food as his dad used in his dinner preparations. Though tonight Oswald and Dad were sitting down to plates of blue box mac and cheese and some canned corn his dad had zapped in the microwave. It was a very yellow meal. You know, I was thinking, Dad said, squirting ketchup onto his macaroni and cheese. Why did he do that? Oswald wondered. I know you're old enough to stay home by yourself, son, but I don't like the idea of you staying by yourself the whole day while your mom and I are at work. I was thinking you could ride into town with me in the mornings, and I could drop you off at the library. You could read, surf the net. Oswald couldn't let this one slide. How out of date could his dad be? No one says surf the net anymore, Dad. They do now because I just said it. Dad forked up some macaroni and cheese. Anyway, I thought you could hang out in the library in the mornings. When you get hungry, you could head over to Jeff's Pizza for a slice and a soda, and I could pick you up there once my shift's over at 3. Also considered for a moment, Jeff's Pizza was kind of weird. It wasn't dirty exactly, but it was run down. The vinyl, sorry, on the blue seats had been repaired with duct tape. and the plastic letters had fallen off the menu board above the counter. So the listed toppings included pepperoni and amber and hamburger. It was clear that Jeff's Pizza used to be something bigger and better than now it was. There were tons of unused floor space and lots of unused electronical outlets along the base of the walls. Also on the far wall was a small stage, even though there were no performances there. Not even so much as a karaoke night. It was a strange place, sad and not what it had been once, like the rest of the town. That being said, the pizza was decent, and most important, it was the only pizza in town if you didn't count the kind from the frozen food department at the snack space. The few good restaurants in town included Gina's Pizza and Marco's Pizza, which, unlike Jeff's, had real pizza maker names, had closed their doors not long after the mill had. So you'll give me the money for pizza? Oswald asked. Since Dad's job lost Oswald and Oswald Rowland had little to practically nothing. Dad smiled, a kind of sad smile. It seemed to Oswald. Son, we're bad off, but we're not so bad off I can't spot you $3.50 for a slice and a soda.